Hey everybody, welcome back to the Allis D17 tractor party. Glad you're here. Alright, so it's been 2 days since I filmed the last video where I put the rear tires on the tractor, and I'm feeling a little bit better today. Still definitely feeling a little sick, but better. But that's okay, because today we are starting a very interesting episode on the rebuild of this tractor, and I'll show you why. Alright, so we're on the front end of the tractor here. This is going to be our next major issue. Mostly on this spindle. That spindle's going to be problematic too, so we're going to fix both of them the same way. So in order to help line my rear wheels up and get them a little bit more true, I want to be able to roll the tractor around. To do that, I have to put the front wheels on that, and to do that, I have to fix this. Alright, so the nature of the beast on this spindle. You can see we are dealing with what appears to be a farm repair from back in the day. Now I would guess somebody hit a rut pretty hard or had too much weight on this thing, and it could be either, because I do know that this tractor had a pretty heavy duty loader on it at one point that caused some other damage that's already been repaired to it. But based on this weld that goes all the way around, this thing got split pretty hard, and I believe they added these gussets in themselves. I don't know. I don't think D17s ever had this. 170s might have. I've seen them on other tractors, but these gussets got added. These might be bars off of a 170, because I know it's got other 170 parts on it, but I digress. This spindle tube is broken. They did an alright job of repairing it. However, when I put the spindle in, when it got to the top bearing, we had an issue. And after removing the bearing, I now know why. So, it doesn't take a super sharp eye to realize that the gap for the bearing over here is much larger than the almost non-existent gap over here. That's supposed to be about an even 60 thou all the way around to put this bushing in. And that's not going to work. It will go in. It's close enough that it will go in, but this will not twist, which is problematic of a steering unit. So, what we're going to have to do here is make a new tube. Step 1 is going to be getting some measurements off of here. Step 2 is making the new tube. And step 3 will be removing this one. I'm going to try and save the gussets, weld those back onto the new tube. And we're also going to make a new steering stop. Most of the measurements I'm going to have to get are so I get the right angles on the steering stop so I can make a new one and weld it on. So that's the left side. Moving over to the right side, it's not as bad. The weld job's a little bit better. There's no crack in the tube as far as I know, but it does have this big dinger taken out of the top. So we're going to replace this one right away too. So before I got all gung-ho on cream paint and getting tires on and stuff, I was working on this. However, we had some lathe issues. I had to take a break, and that's when I went to doing some paint and tires and stuff to occupy my time while I waited for lathe parts and the knowledge to install those lathe parts. But getting back to that lathe, I did start working on this. So you could tell I have stock to make a new spindle out of there, and I've already started boring it. And that was when the on-off switch for the lathe started acting up, and I had to take a break while I waited for the new switch to show up. So what I've already done is I've taken this bar stock, it wasn't tube stock, and at work in our larger lathe there, I took some big drills and drilled it out completely all the way through. Because in the middle, on the tubes that are on the tractor right now, if you look at them close, the center portion is actually clearance on the spindle, and then these are bored so that they will be a slip fit on the top and bottom where the bushings are. So the spindle's only being supported about the top two and bottom 2 inches. That middle bit is all clearanced out and room for grease to flow, because the grease zert's about here, and then it'll push grease up through both bushings. So first thing we have to do here, as I've already done on this end, is face and bore it, and then we'll flip it over, face it to length, bore the other side for the bronze bushing, and then we'll be able to set this aside until we have both of them done and are going to start installing them on the axles. So we'll get to work on that. I'm going to do my best filming this as I can. I'm on my phone today because my GoPro's acting up, but this is the meat and potatoes of tractor restoration for me. This is the part I love most, is making stuff out of metal to put on the tractor. And that concludes the lathe portion of the video. So, this tube is now this tube. Next on the to-do list, we need to make the steering stop, which is just a piece of steel welded to the outside of the tube up here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, change of plans here. I got asked to help cut some trees down by the neighbor, so I had a chance to go to work and sketch this up instead of having to do a ton of trig, which was nice. So we have our print with our points on it, which turns into this program. These Accurites are really handy for this kind of stuff, so we're gonna whip 2 of these out real quick, and then we'll get them on, hopefully weld them on those spindles, probably not tonight, but tomorrow night. That looks about right, so we'll face it off and get rolling. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So next I'll take this out, cut them off with a block, flip them over, face them off, and then we'll be ready to start tacking them onto the tubes. Alright, so what we gotta do today, these gotta get faced off on the back. I'm already set up to do the grease hole. I'm doing the grease hole first just because I kind of forgot about it. Now I want to get it done so that this piece is completely ready to go. Alright, before I show you guys the spindles, please remember, I am not a welder. I am a machinist. They're on there. It'll work. Not the prettiest, but it'll work. Saturday, welcome back. We are starting to cut up the old axles. As you can see, I've got my first gusset off, and they did not skimp on the weld. It might be easier to make new ones than to try and cut all that weld off in the mill, but we'll see. I'm going to at least try it. But I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to cut from this side on my tube, and then I'll flip it over so I can start cutting the other gusset off of there. And we'll get this guy off and get this ready for milling the end. Alright, so the next step is to take this jagged grinder cut and all this extra weld off so that we can weld the new one on. And after that, we'll put the actual angle on the end so that when we weld it, the tube is at the correct cant. That welder's a little loud. Anyway, we're going to tack this onto the end. I use this to set my gauge to the end off of the old axle and to keep them the same. And then I have an angled parallel over here to set the angle on my stop. Alright, new spindle tubes over there, cooling down. Just welded it to the old axle bar. Meanwhile, over in here in the mill, we have a lot of weld to cut out. There's just enough flat surface that I can maybe tram this in flat so that I can cut the weld off of it, but there's not a lot to hold on to. It's more weld than gusset at this point. They're mostly cleaned up. So I just held it like this, and then I can cut across the top and the side and know they're square to each other. Now I just gotta take this little bit of weld off. And these things really don't have to be all that accurate, but I do want them to be kind of the same size so that they look good when I get them all welded next to each other. Alright, let's take a look at the progress. There you go. We have one gusset on. I'm going to put my weld across the top, clean up the back side of that gusset, and then put the last gusset on, and this side will be done. Also, if in the future I make a video about how this front end fails, you're looking at the guy right now who caused it. I'm learning, okay? Alright, there's the original. Those gussets were added after the fact, I'm pretty sure. And here's the new one. It's alright. My grease hole did come in a little bit off, but that's my mistake. I don't think it's going to bother anybody other than me, and maybe somebody else with ADHD, but it'll still put grease in, and it's still mostly forward. So anyway, we're going to get back on the big scary angle grinder and cut that one off, and hopefully get both of them done up tonight yet. Well, there you have it, guys. 2 brand new front spindle tubes. I did take the time to pop the bushings into one of them, make sure it fit so that we don't have a repeat of our old guys where I get them all painted and then realize it doesn't fit. So that leaves me with painting and assembling. And I think hopefully by next weekend this guy will at least be able to roll, and if we put all the fluids in it and do some final checks, such as I gotta check the timing, we'll be able to fire this guy up next weekend maybe. I'm gonna have to run out and get front tires for it and tubes, but that shouldn't be too bad.
and hopefully when I publish next week, we're publishing a video of a running tractor. But we'll see how it all plays out, I guess. I'm getting really excited here because we're getting very close to firing this thing up for the first time. And still got a lot of work to do on it, but at least it'll be moving around. So it's been taking up this corner of the shop for over a year now. Anyways, I will see you guys next week, hopefully with another big update. Until then, hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like and subscribe if you don't mind, and I'll see you soon.